दैवी एषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया माम एव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायाम एतां तरन्ति ते दैवी एषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते दैवी एषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया माम एव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायाम एतां तरन्ति ते. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Om Jnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadandikam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. So I would like to welcome you all to our Wednesday program. So we have not yet really advertised much. Not many people know about it. But from today, every Wednesday, we will be beginning a program here at 7:30, and we will discuss Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and various other subject matters. Today, being Republic Day, January 26th, I thought it would be nice to discuss this one verse. You may be wondering what this verse has got to do with our Republic Day. Lord Krishna is explaining here that His divine energy, consisting of the three modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajaguna and Tamaguna, they are very, very difficult to overcome. He uses the word Duratyaya over here. Duratyaya indicates that not only is it difficult, but it is practically impossible to overcome. But he says there is one solution. That one solution is to surrender to Him. That is Lord Krishna. Then it is possible to overcome this. So this is the day, Republic Day, when this nation is celebrating its freedom, or rather its birth as a republic. 15th of August is the day when this country got independence, or so-called independence, from the British, and 26th January is the date when this country became a republic, when no more was there a viceroy or a governor general who is representing the Queen of England, but rather this country had its own president, prime minister and everything, and its own constitution. So it is considered a very, very important day, in fact more important than the Independence Day, because this indicates real freedom. The last shackles of our binding from our foreign rulers and those who have subjugated us for so long have been broken. So this is celebrated all over the country with great pomp. And what we have to consider today is whether we have truly become a republic, whether we have truly become independent. In this material world, it is not possible to become independent. This material world is a place of dependence. You are always dependent upon something, someone. In fact, Lord Krishna explains, it is a place of misery. He explains this is Dukhala Shashvatam. It is a place of misery and it is temporary. There is no relief to be found here. There is no happiness that is possible to get in this material world. Even materialistic people have come to the understanding that so many troubles come upon us one after the other. And when one trouble goes, another trouble comes. And when that trouble goes, another one comes. In this way, every living entity in this world is being subjected to so many different troubles. No one can say that he is free from trouble at any point of time. At the most, all we can say is that temporarily there is just uh, a reduction in the flow of arrows. Like on the battlefield, sometimes you find a great pounding of guns. Boom, 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 boom. The guns are blazing like anything. And for some time there may be some respite. Guns are blowing somewhere, but there is some respite only. But this is just like the lull before the storm. Usually before a storm there is a great quietness, and we feel, now everything is peaceful, but then the storm comes. Similarly, sometimes in this material world, when there is a sense of peace, when there is a sense of security, we tend to feel very complacent and we think, yes, this world is a very nice place to live in. Just see, I have my nice family, I have my nice job or my business, and I have my food, I have my nice club, I go and play my games, I see the television, I go for picnics, I go for movie, and in this way I have a good name in society, everything is going fine. But the harsh reality of this material world is that it will never let you be at peace for long. Just a moment you may find some kind of temporary respite, but it is a very hard assault upon us, day after day, moment after moment, because that is the way Lord Krishna has designed it. It is explained in the Shastra that there are these three kinds of miseries that are constantly coming upon us. They are called Adhidaivika, Adhibhautika and Adhyatmika. The Adhibhautika klesha means that these are miseries that are inflicted upon us by other living entities. Sometimes we find, like in our ashram, many times we have so many rats and so many cockroaches coming, we don't know from where they come, but they come. However much you may try to get rid of them, but somehow they keep coming. Then there are so many mosquitoes that come, and so many other people that come and create disturbance. So in every way, we are always being subjected to distress by other living entities, whether it is an animal or an insect or a human being. When you go to your office, your boss is harassing you, or in your business, your client is harassing you. When you go home, your family members may harass you. When you go on the road, on the train, your fellow passengers may harass you. When you go into the bus, the conductor may harass you. So in this way, everywhere you go, you're bound to be harassed somewhere, sometime. So this is Adhibhautika, klesha. Klesha means misery. Similarly, there is also Adhidaivika klesha, which means miseries that are inflicted upon us by nature. We can see sometimes it is very hot, sometimes it is very cold, sometimes it rains a lot, there are floods in the Central Railway, Western Railway, all of them stop, and then you cannot go from place to place. Then sometimes there are droughts, and the farmers cannot grow their crops, and there is scarcity of food, and the prices go up, and there is great suffering. Sometimes there are earthquakes, you all know about the Latur earthquake. Sometimes there are volcanoes. So many problems in nature. It is called Adhidaivika because these things are controlled by higher powers called the demigods or the devatas. So the devatas are in charge of these functions of nature. It is the responsibility of the devatas to ensure that mankind, or in fact all living entities in this universe, are well supplied with all the necessities of life. But when mankind forgets its true purpose in life and it tries to enjoy this material world, then the demigods, they inflict all kinds of punishments. Actually, mankind now is living in a state of ignorance because it is not coming to terms with the reality that this is a world of suffering. And even if you have managed to somehow or the other thwart these miseries, then there is the misery of your own body and mind called Adhyatmika klesha. There is hunger, there is thirst, there is mental tension, anxiety, so many problems. In fact, external troubles you can somehow or the other save yourself from. You can tolerate, you can find some solutions. But the greatest problem in the world today is not simply there are some floods, or there is some low prices, high prices, or low employment. No, the real problem is mental. People are suffering like anything. In all the so-called advanced countries in the world, like Japan, America, Sweden, there is the highest rate of suicides. Just the other day there was a newspaper report that Japan is now reached record heights in the number of suicides that is done every year. And it is not just that there are old people committing suicide. Young people, even children, teenagers, middle-aged people are all committing suicide. Because there is so much mental pressure, so much mental anxiety, they cannot survive in a peaceful way. So these three miseries are constantly going to be inflicted upon us. And it is not possible to save oneself from them by any kind of material plan making. You may make any amount of plans, build up a big bank balance, build up a big police force, army, navy, you may have a weather bureau, you may have raincoats, and you may have all kinds of things. But it is not possible. Because this is Lord Krishna's guarantee. When we give a guarantee, it is bound to fail. So many times we buy products from companies, some tape recorder or some this or that, and they give us so many guarantees, and we find within 1 week something has gone wrong. It says guaranteed for 2 years, but it doesn't stay. But Lord Krishna's guarantee is not like that. Lord Krishna's guarantee is perfect. When he says something, we know that it is true. Other guarantees we have to take with a pinch of salt. So this is Lord Krishna's guarantee. He says, whatever you may do, don't think you can be happy in this world. It is impossible. Therefore, a person who really wants to be happy in this world must first understand and be convinced that this is a place of misery and that he can never be happy in this world. So long as there is even a shred of doubt in your mind about this fact, you will be miserable to that extent. If there is even some little bit of hope in your heart that, well, there are so many problems in the world, even in my life there are so many problems, but yet there is still some chance that if I simply do this, or I simply do that, or if simply this happens or that happens, then I can be happy. After all, just look at that person. He is doing this and he is doing that, and still he seems to be leading a very happy life. So long as there is even a little bit of hope in your heart that you can be happy in this world, you will suffer. So the first step towards real happiness and real freedom is to understand that in this world you cannot be happy. It is impossible. We must be 100% convinced about this. More convinced of the fact of the reality that I am seeing you and that you are seeing me right here. This is our conviction we should have. So what is the reason? Why is it that we are subjected to these things? Lord Krishna is explaining here. This divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome. So the reason we are subjected to these influences is because of these three modes. Sattva guna, Raja guna and Tama guna. This whole material world is composed of these three gunas or qualities. Qualities, just like you have in this material world so many different colors. Red color, blue color, yellow color. And by mixing these different colors, you can get any number of colors. Similarly, in this material world, you have three basic qualities called Sattva guna, Raja guna and Tama guna. And by mixing them in various ways, you can have different forms of bondage. The function of these three qualities of Sattva guna, Raja guna, Tama guna is to simply bind us. Another meaning of the word guna, like Sattva guna, Raja guna, Tama guna, is rope. What is a rope meant for? A rope is meant to tie us, is meant to tie something. So these three gunas are meant to tie us to this material world, to bind us here. And it keeps us very tightly bound. And the tighter you are bound, the more you suffer. So therefore, we must know how to go beyond these three modes of material nature. How to get free from the ropes that are tying us very hard to this material world. It is very, very difficult to get free from them. In fact, Lord Krishna is saying here, Duratya, it is impossible. And the only way we can get free from this is to surrender to the Supreme Lord. But we have to understand before that, what is it that is being bound? Who is being bound? Who are we? Are we these bodies? Are we the soul? Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that actually we are the spirit soul, we are not this body. And this material body is actually the cause of our suffering. Originally the spirit soul or Jivatma comes from the kingdom of God, it is pure. And because it is pure, it is fully conscious at all times. The nature of the soul is that it is always conscious. But what is it conscious of? It is not that it is conscious of nothing. It is conscious of Krishna, the Supreme Lord. At all times it is conscious. But somehow or the other, by misuse of independence, the soul comes into this material world. And the moment he comes into this material world, he acquires a material body, which is the cause of his suffering. Srila Prabhupada explains that the soul and Lord Krishna, both are one in quality. Just like the spark of a fire and the fire are one in quality. When a spark comes out from a fire, and if it falls in your shirt or on your clothes, sometimes it may make a small black patch there, or it may make a hole in your clothes. What does it mean? It means the spark also has the same quality as the fire. That is the power to burn. So the spark is one in quality with the fire, but when the spark goes away from the fire, then what happens? Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice example. He says there are three possibilities. When a spark falls away from the fire, either it can fall on dry grass, or it can fall on the ground, or it can fall in water. Depending on where the spark falls, there will be a different result. If it falls on dry grass, what will happen? It will ignite. Because the grass is dry and the spark comes, it will ignite and there will be a big fire. However, if it falls on the ground, there is a possibility that it may burn something, there may be some fire. But then after some time it will stop. But if it falls in the water, then automatically right from the beginning it will immediately get extinguished. So similarly, the spirit soul of the Jivatma is like the spark. The spark has come away from the fire. And if the spark stays away from the fire for a long time, it will lose its fiery quality. It will apparently lose its divinity. So, these three modes, Sattva Guna, Rajaguna, Tamaguna, are compared respectively to the dry grass, to the ground and to the water. So when the Jivatma comes here into this material world, it comes into contact with these three modes of material nature, Sattva Guna, Rajaguna, Tamaguna. And it gets bound by these three ropes. These are three different kinds of ropes. Sattva Guna is like a golden rope, Rajaguna is like a silver rope, and the Tamaguna is like an iron rope. But a rope is a rope, whether it is made of gold or whether it is made of rusted iron, it does not make a difference. A prisoner does not find any consolation in the fact that he is in a jail which is full of gold, constructed out of gold pillars, and there is gold bars everywhere, there is gold everywhere around, but he is not free. What is the use? So therefore, these are three different kinds of ropes that are binding us. And when the Jivatma comes into this material world, it comes into contact with one, two or three or a combination of these three modes. And it gets immediately trapped by them. Purushaha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam gunasangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Lord Krishna explains, because he wants to enjoy independent of Krishna, the spirit soul comes into the material world, and because of this enjoying mentality, he is covered over by the three gunas. The three gunas, Sattva Guna, Rajagun, Tamagun, immediately trap him, they catch him. And as a result of that, he gets overwhelmed. And because of being so overwhelmed, then what happens? Sad asad yoni janmasu. He has to accept so many different kinds of material bodies, one after the other. And depending on the kinds of mode of nature he is associating with, he will either lose his divine quality or he will revive it. So the mode of goodness is compared to that dry grass. Because if the Jivatma is in contact with the mode of goodness, there is a possibility that he may revive that original knowledge, that I am eternally servant of Lord Krishna. I am not the Lord and Master. In fact, I am the servant. I am not the Master. So mode of goodness means enlightenment, knowledge. So although it is binding us, but still the mode of goodness is good because it helps us to come out of bondage. The mode of passion is meant for enjoyment. Those who want to enjoy life of animalistic enjoyment, they are covered by mode of passion. And mode of ignorance means simply suffering and ignorance. Just like the animals who are sleeping for long hours, you can see the men who are drunk on the street lying there for hours and hours together, they are covered by tamagun, simply suffering. There is no knowledge, not even any material enjoyment, nothing, there is simply suffering. So when the Jivatma comes into contact with the Sattva Guna, then what happens? Slowly, the process of revival of the spiritual knowledge. And who is a person who is covered by the Sattva Guna? He is called a Brahmana. So a Brahman is not a person who simply wears a sacred thread. Today people are very proud that simply if I am born in a Brahman family, then I am called a Brahmana. But Lord Krishna describes that a Brahmana means one who has acquired certain qualities, the principal quality being real knowledge. Brahmajanati iti Brahmana. One who understands God, who understands the absolute truth, he is called a genuine Brahmana. Not anybody who wears a sacred thread or who knows how to chant some mantras or who wears a shikha. Not like that. So therefore, when you come in contact with the mode of goodness, automatically knowledge it develops. And you develop the desire. Now I want to know, what is this life about? Why is there so much suffering? I want to know the answer. I want to know God. Who is God? Who am I? So when we associate with people who are in the mode of goodness, automatically the mode of goodness within us is brought out to the surface. However, the ground is like the mode of passion. When the spark falls on the ground, then what happens? There is a possibility for some time it may remain there, but sooner or later it will get extinguished. So the enjoying mentality, sometimes sooner the living entity enjoys for some time. But because he is enjoying in this world, he is committing so many sinful activities, and therefore he is punished. And then he is sent to the lower species of life. And he goes into lower and lower and lower species of life, and thus he suffers more and more, and goes deeper and deeper into ignorance. So it becomes more and more increasingly difficult for him to come out of this material existence. He gets bound tighter and tighter. In other words, the ropes are being pulled tighter, tighter, tighter. And then of course there is the tamagun, the mode of ignorance, which is like the water. As soon as the spirit soul comes into contact with the tamagun, practically speaking, his whole spiritual life is finished. Whatever inclination there may have been for spiritual life to understand God is all finished. For example, a man drunk on the road, can you try telling him about spiritual life? It is not possible. There is no question. I remember several years ago, I was traveling in a train. I like to narrate this incident because it gives us very illuminating. And at that time there was this man who was drunk, and he was hanging on the outside of the train. And he was hanging only on he was holding only one hand in the train, the other hand was outside, hanging out. And he was balancing inside the train only on one leg, and the other leg was also outside. So one leg and one hand were outside, hanging out, and he was holding onto the train only with 2 or 3 fingers, and he was singing in his own mood, in his own so-called ecstasy. He was singing like that. And at any time he could have hit a post or a bar outside, or one of these pillars that come, or he could have simply slipped and fallen. It was only a matter of few seconds before he would have fallen. I was positive about that. So as nobody was doing anything, everybody was simply watching him. So I decided it is time that I should just pull him in somehow, otherwise this man is definitely going to fall down and die. So I caught him by his hand and just gently pulled him in. But as soon as I pulled him in, then he became so violent. He became very violent, and he started to assault me. But fortunately, you know the conditions of the Indian trains. They are so crowded you cannot even stand properly. So he tried to hit me, but he hit 50 other people, and therefore all of them pounced on him. So nothing happened to me. But the point is that when you are influenced by the tamagun, it is impossible for you to understand proper instruction. It is impossible to understand that something is being said or done for your benefit. You cannot understand what is your real benefit in tamagun. It is impossible. In fact, the mode of ignorance is symbolized by foolishness and ignorance. And Chanakya Pandit, the great moralist and Brahmana from the time of Chandragupta Maurya, he says that when you instruct a fool, give him some good instructions, he becomes even more angry. He becomes very angry. He can't accept good instruction. So therefore such people, it is useless trying to instruct them in anything. So therefore, when the Jivatma comes in contact with the Tamagun, it is impossible for the Jivatma to take to spiritual life or understand what is my real welfare. So practically speaking, the whole spiritual life is finished, and then he just goes into lower and lower species of life, and he transmigrates between the so many different 8.4 million species of life, and goes on and on and on, and for millions and millions of years. So this is the fate. So our goal is to revive that fiery spirit, to understand that the soul is actually part and parcel of Krishna. We have that fire of divinity within us. It has only got to be revived by the proper association. If we associate with people who are avoiding sinful activity, who are trying to lead a pure life, then automatically that inclination will be aroused in us. Prahlad, in the Bhagavatam, he says, Matirna Krishna Paratas Svatova Mitho Bhipadyat Griha Vritanam Adanta Gobhir Vishitam Tamisram Punah Punas Charvita Charvananam. He says that for those people who are addicted to trying to enjoy this material world, what happens? Their desire to know Krishna never awakens. Matirna Krishna, na Krishna paratasvatova. Mati means inclination. So their inclination to understand God or Lord Krishna is never aroused, either by their own effort or by the good instruction of other people. It can never be aroused. Because they're so much engaged in sense gratification, trying to enjoy this material world, that it is not possible. The material enjoyment puts a kind of a cloud, it puts a curtain between us and the truth. We cannot understand. And therefore it is a adanta gobhir vishatam tamisram. Therefore such people simply go towards more and more hellish conditions of life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam there are descriptions of hell in the 5th canto. So many kinds of hells. If you read it, you will be astounded, you will be amazed. So many horrible descriptions of what sufferings you can undergo in hell. But basically, you do not have to read the Bhagavatam, or you do not have to go to the hellish planets to understand what is hell. Because if you simply see here in life, you see people are living in such a hellish condition. Outside the railway stations, you see people are living there in the slums. All day they are fighting with each other, they are shouting at each other, they are abusing each other. Always they are distressed. The food also they eat is so dirty, some kind of dirty meat body, some dead body of some animal. And it is such an existence that is worse than the animals. And they are suffering so much. They are living in a virtual hell there. In fact, right across the temple, whenever I come back from Grand Road Station, there is always that one couple that is there on the road. They are both drunk all the time and they are always fighting with each other. And this man is always beating up his wife, he's pulling her, banging her head, and then she is crying all the day long. And then, all these things are going on day after day, every day it has been going on. And further down the road in Nana Chowk, there are further such families, and it goes on all the way up to Grand Road Station. The point is, hell is right here. Hell is right here. We are seeing this all along. And why are these people in this condition? Because they have misused their independence. They have tried to become enjoyers in this material world. And as a result, they have been bound more and more. They have come into greater and greater and greater bondage. And when they descend into more and more ignorant species of life, they are given suffering situation like this. Now at least they have some chance. They are in a human form of life, but not very human at all. They are like animals. Just because they are a human body doesn't mean they are human. They are living completely an animalistic existence. Completely like animals. There is no difference practically. So therefore we should know that good association is very important. It is only by virtue of the good association that we can actually learn to become free from these ropes of Sattva Guna, Rajaguna and Tamaguna that are binding us so tightly. Once we come into the association and we lose our bad qualities and we acquire good qualities and we acquire proper knowledge, then what happens? Slowly the ropes start getting lighter and lighter. This is real freedom. This is real independence. So long as we are bound by these ropes, they are only a cause of misery. King Rishabdev in the Bhagavatam, he instructs his sons. He had 100 sons. He was a great king, King Rishabdev. And in fact, his son was called King Bharat, his eldest son, after whom Bharatvarsha is named, the land Bharat is named. And his 100 sons, he was instructing them. And he told them, Nunam pramatta kurute vikarma yad indriya pritaya apranoti. Na sadhu manya yatatmanoyam asan api kleshada ashadeha. He said, this human form of life is very valuable. You have received it after transmigrating, going through many species of life. And in this human species of life, it is not meant for a sense enjoyment. It is not meant for trying to be enjoyers in this world. Those who are intelligent do not try to live this kind of worldly enjoyment. Why? Because this body is the source of your suffering. Asanabi kleshada asadeha. Klesha means suffering. Deha means material body. So King Rishabdev is telling his sons, this material body is really the cause of your suffering. And that which is the cause of your suffering, you think it is the cause of your pleasure. And so you are trying to use this material body to get enjoyment, but actually what are you doing? You are drinking more and more poison. You are actually entangling yourself in more and more suffering. Therefore King Rishabdev tells his sons, he gives his instruction that it does not befit all of you as intelligent boys to take to this path of worldly enjoyment. Rather, you should try to understand what is the absolute truth. Try to lead a spiritual life. And in this way you will become free from suffering. You will become really free. Now which father gives instructions like this these days? Which father will tell his sons that you must do some tapasya? Today, every father, he is only trying to bind his children more and more tighter and tighter. You come on now, you must go into the system, get the good job, you do your business, do this, do that. And the moment they learn that young boys and girls are coming to the temple, they will stop them, they will put so many restrictions on them. And even in among people who are mature adults, we find that if the wife is coming, the husband puts so many restrictions. If the husband is coming, the wife puts so many restrictions. If both are ready, the children put so many restrictions. Or if nothing, then the relatives put so much pressure. So this whole world, there is so much pressure trying to keep you away from being free. This material world is a deep, dark well where everybody is suffering. And when you want to get free and you want to go out of this well, everybody is pulling you. Don't go out, come down, and everybody is pulling you down. And when you say that I want to become free, I want to become happy, I want to get out of this well which is dark. Have you seen a dark well? Have you seen inside? What do you see inside? You see all kinds of dirty things. There is moss, there is fungus, there are so many toads and frogs and what else? So many dirty things inside. So when you want to get out and become clean and come up, people tell you, no, don't go, you come, be here in the moss, be here in the dirt with me. Let us float about here in this water. So when they are in bondage and they want you to remain in bondage. If you are getting free, they don't want you to get free. So we should know that if we really want to get free, we have to approach somebody who is already free. A drowning man cannot help another drowning man save him from drowning. In fact, he will pull him down even faster. So we need to take shelter of a person who is actually free, and then he can save us. He can untie these ropes that are tying us very tight now, and get the spiritual nature that is within us to come out, flower out. That is real freedom. Real freedom cannot come by some political conditions. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada went to him first, he was a Gandhian, he was a nationalist, fighting for the freedom of the country. And when he went to him, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told him, you're a young, intelligent, educated man, you should take this Krishna conscious movement, you should take this movement of Lord Chaitanya and spread it all over the world in the English language. This should be the mission of your life. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada, his name was Abhay Charan De, he said, what is the use of this spiritual movement and this talk about God when we are still subjugated by the British? They are exploiting us, they are keeping us under so much of dependence. Once we get independence, then we can think of these higher things. So, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told him that look, this Krishna consciousness is an urgency, it is an emergency. There is no other dire need in society other than Krishna consciousness. There is only one problem in the world, that is lack of God consciousness. That is the only problem in the world. The real problem is not that the British are in this land and that they are not leaving. That is not the problem. Today you think you are going to be happy if you drive the British out. Tomorrow somebody else will come and you will be disillusioned with that ruler or that leader. Tomorrow you will kick him out, somebody else will come. No political ruler is going to be able to make you happy. Because happiness in this world is not dependent on whether the British are ruling you, or whether the Mughals are ruling you, or whether Narasimha Rao is there, or whether Indira Gandhi is there, whether there is socialism, whether there is capitalism, whether there is monarchy or dictatorship, or this ism or that ism. Happiness or freedom is not dependent on these isms in all these different situations. These are only different forms of bondage, made of different kinds of ropes are made of. Sometimes it is made of nylon, sometimes it is made of iron, sometimes it is made of steel. So what difference does it make? These different forms of bondage in attractive packages. So if you want to be really free, we have to understand that these political systems, social systems, economic systems, all these military solutions cannot help us. We should have people who are saintly, who are free themselves from the three modes of this material nature, who can help us to become free. Then we will become really free. This land of Bharatvarsha has a long history, long history. In fact, many people are bemoaning the fact that we have been under foreign rule for so many years. We were under British rule for 250 to 300 years, and before that we were under Muslim rule for almost 700 years perhaps. And people are saying that this has destroyed our culture, which is also true to some extent. Yes, the effect is there. But factually, if you study the scriptures, you understand that the history of this country goes back to thousands and thousands and millions of years, not just thousands of years, millions of years. And you have these four yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga. We have one idea of this Kali Yuga. And even in Kali Yuga, we don't have a complete idea. But what about the earlier yugas? This Kali Yuga is 432,000 years old. Dwapar Yuga, which came before that, is twice that. That is 864,000 years old. It's long. And before that, there is Treta Yuga, which is 3 times the length of Kali Yuga. And finally, there is Satya Yuga, which is 4 times the length of Kali Yuga. In this way, the total span of all these 4 yugas together is 4.32 billion years. Billion. So many years long. And we are considering only 5,000 years or 1 or 2,000 years of subjugation under foreign rulers. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will find that actually the kings who ruled Bharatvarsha actually ruled the whole planet for thousands upon millions of years. Bharatvarsha actually meant the whole planet in the earlier ages. Today Bharatvarsha is simply a small plot of land, and that is always people are fighting over what is the border of this line, whether Kashmir is in Pakistan, and so many borderline disputes are going on. But in the earlier ages there was no need for such dispute because the whole planet was called Bharatvarsha. And one king used to rule the whole planet. Today, even if one person is able to rule one little city, he is considered a very great man because it's so difficult to rule. Very difficult. So many conflicts, so many problems. It is impossible. What to speak of a kingdom, even if to control a family these days, to manage a family or maintain a small business enterprise is so difficult. So in Kali Yuga, as we go on, it is extremely difficult. But in those ages, there was one king and he would manage the entire planet, because such kings were called Raja Rishis, saintly kings. And they would rule under the principles of dharma, under the principles of religion. The basis for their rule was not political or social or economic or military. The basis for their rule was dharma, religion, real religion. And therefore, on the strength of that, the potency of that dharma, they were empowered by God. Therefore, a king in those days was considered the representative of God and as worshipable as a spiritual master and as worshipable as God himself. That is why we find that when even the great saintly persons, they would respect them, because the kings were very also great saints themselves. So because the dharma was there, Krishna consciousness or Sanatan Dharma was the center of life, whether in the family or in political life or in social life. Therefore it was possible to rule the whole kingdom. And at that time, although there was only one king who was ruled so powerful, but because he was Krishna conscious, because he was fully spiritual, and he was being guided by such saintly personalities, therefore the whole world was happy and peaceful. That was real freedom. Otherwise, this Republic Day or Independence Day has no meaning. It is simply just a ritual. Just like some people come to the temple sometimes once in a month, they will just go to some Shiva temple, some Krishna temple, some Ganesh temple. They will do some puja once a week, take darshan, come away and continue their sinful activity. Similarly, there are rituals also in political activities, in social life. We will have so many rituals. This is Independence Day, this is Republic Day. But what is the meaning of such independence and being a republic? Because we are still bound. I remember when there was a change of ministers and leaders in India, somebody went to Srila Prabhupada and said, do you know there is a change of ministers now, change of prime minister, and so has come in and so has gone out. So Prabhupada, he just waved aside this with a wave of his hand. He said, a donkey comes in, a horse goes out. What difference? They're all the same people. They're just coming in different forms. They are going to inflict suffering upon the teeming masses. They're going to continue to do that. One person is making people suffer because of this way. Another person will come and make you suffer another way. So they don't have the real solutions to the problems of life. They have not even understood what is the real problem of life. What can they do? How much can they help you? In fact, all they can do is to simply they can tie you with some extra ropes. Or as they say, what are they doing? They are simply giving the masses extra rope to hang themselves with. Come on, take more rope. Instead of actually cutting these ropes, which is what the function of leaders should be, they are giving extra rope. Come on, This is science and technology. See, we are building better and better quality of ropes. This is unbreakable rope. This cannot break, don't fear. So many times it happens when some people try to commit suicide by hanging themselves. By providence, when they hang themselves, the rope breaks and they fall down and they are saved before they can hang themselves, isn't it? So the leaders now are making sure that these ropes are foolproof, that you can hang yourself without any possibility of being saved. So they will give you ropes made of stronger and stronger material. Now there is these polypropylene ropes or this ropes or Teflon ropes and so many hard materials. Science and technology is getting so advanced, they will tell you. Our economy is our science. So all they are doing is to simply give you longer and longer rope to hang yourself with, to commit spiritual suicide, to simply become bound more and more. So we should not be misled by the false propaganda of materialistic politicians. Rather, we should listen to the voice of God and the voice of the representatives of God, the saintly personalities, speaking either directly or speaking through the scripture. Then we can be really free. This is the real solution to life. This is our real Independence Day. This is our real Republic Day. Until we become free from these three modes of material nature, in this way, by surrendering to God, we will always remain in the same condition, and we will always delude ourselves, waving flags and having march pasts and parades and all these things. Just some illusion will go on and on. And what is the way to surrender to God? We have to first approach a bona fide spiritual master who is coming in disciplic succession, surrender to him, take instruction from him, take guidance from him, and in this way we will be able to surrender to the Supreme Lord. In this day and age, in Kali Yuga, the simplest solution for getting free from the bonds of material nature is to simply chant the name of God. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, Kalau nasti eva, nasti eva, nasti eva, gatiranyatha. In this age of Kali Yuga, there is no other way, no other way, no other way, except the name of Hari, the name of Hari, the name of Hari. So this is the only solution. And particularly in Kali Yuga, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is specifically recommended. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, this is our solution. And if we follow this process, then it becomes very easy to become free. No more does it become an impossible task. But if you don't accept the solution that Lord Krishna is giving, that is the process to surrender to Him, then Lord Krishna says, forget it. It is impossible. Just forget it. You will be just simply bound more and more. So let us take the simple solution, the easy solution to become free and really happy. And then we can celebrate our Independence and Republic Days together. And that will become really meaningful. So Hare Krishna. Are there any questions? Just before the question is asked, I would just like to say that we are going to meet here every Wednesday at 7:30. And I would like your feedback on what subject you want me to cover. Whether you want again Bhagavad Gita verse by verse, or you want, like today, picking up certain verses at random and then speaking, or certain things like, say, taking only the most important verses. For example, there are 54 verses in the week. We can take one verse each week, or 52 verses, 52 most important verses of Bhagavad Gita, and each week we can cover one verse of all the important verses. Or perhaps we can take on some other scriptures that are written, like Nectar of Instruction and so on and so forth. There are many nice things to discuss. So I will request you to give me your feedback as to what you think you would like, and in this way we will try to conduct. For the next 2 or 3 sessions, till more and more people are aware of this Wednesday program, we will have general lectures on some particular verse like this. And then once I get all the feedback, then we will have some definite program for eternity. Hare Krishna. Yes, a question please.
And this world is full of miseries.
Dissociated from the source of the suffering, because by virtue of his knowledge, and moreover, because of his spiritual advancement, because he is Krishna conscious, he is always thinking of Krishna, always working for Krishna. At the time of his death, he will think of Krishna, and then he will no more have to take a birth in this material world. Therefore, no more will he get a material body, and he will go back to the kingdom of God, where he will get an eternal, blissful spiritual body. As I was saying earlier, King Rishabdev was telling his sons that this material body is simply a source of your suffering. That is the cause of your suffering. So if you reach a stage where you don't have to accept another material body again, and that is the perfection of your life. So the saintly souls are destined for the spiritual world. They are going there, they are making preparation to go back to the kingdom of God. So long as this material body is there, you have to bear with it. But once you are through with this body, then no more coming back. Any other questions? Do you have? Balaji, any questions?
In all the 8,40,000 species, only human birth is in other
84 lakh species.
8 lakhs from other species, except human species. Others are covered by, binded by the nature itself, rather than their own karmas. So when they elevated to higher and higher species, suppose a dog is elevated to man, since dog is not covered by any karma, why when it comes to the human birth, why there is a differentiation? Human birth comes from the lower species, and lower species are not binded by any karma. Why there is a distinction in the human birth?
The lower species are also bound by karma, but they are bound by the karma that is done in the previous human life. So whatever in the previous human life that this soul was in, whatever karma was done in that life, will apply to that particular soul in his journey through all the species of life that he transmigrated through before coming to the next round of human life again. So in that sense, he is bound by his karma. But eventually, once you come to a lower species of life, the progression upwards to higher and higher species of life is automatic. The animal does not have to strive to come to a higher species of life like we have to strive. There is no concept of sin for an animal or a plant or an insect. Automatically he will come to a higher understanding. But what condition that animal is in or that insect is in depends on the karma performed earlier. So you will have sometimes a dog that suffers more, sometimes you have a dog that suffers less. So even among dogs there is variety of dogs, variety of cats, variety of so many things. Yes, you can ask.
Even when you said dogs, even some dog is eating biscuits and some dog is not able to eat and wandering in the street.
That is because of previous karma performed in the human life. Ultimately he will get a human birth again from where he will get a chance. If he spends his life simply eating biscuits again in the human form of life, then again he'll have to take birth.